started to get this anxiety on Sunday nights, and then I started to dread Saturdays. I just was like, well, this sucks. This is not a way to live a life. I marched into work the next day, Michelle, was like, Kathy, I quit. I quit my job, no job. I had one poem. It is the worst poem I have ever heard of anyone, ever, anywhere. My mom said, you can't do poetry, Azure. That's a hobby, and hobbies are for weekends and white people. I am a 20-year survivor of relapsing remitting multiple sclerosis. I had ChatGPT teach me how to download the radiology software. I developed the entire app full stack by myself. We are valued at 25 million US pre-capital.
Welcome to Michelle's Seat at the Table.
Hi, lovely. Good to see you, my darling.
Good. I am so honored that you are here, that you've joined me at the table. As you know, this podcast is about leadership. It's about community. It's about the conversations that shape us. You know, life is not just about the destination. It's about the richness that's found in our journey and our stories. And I'm very excited to introduce you and welcome you to the Seat at the Table audience. So I'm going to give a couple of points, and then I'm going to turn over to you to let us know where you're joining from. So my guest today, I am excited to have this powerhouse of a female entrepreneur. Azure Antoinette is a commissioned poet, spoken word artist, TED speaker, entrepreneur, and arts advocate. Dubbed the Maya Angelou of the millennial generation by when she was featured in their Most Powerful Women in the World issue. So I know that we've been talking about the business that you're doing. I'm excited for you to tell us about what you've been working on, your foundation. But before we dig into all of that, tell me where you're joining from today.
Well, Michelle, I am joining you from Brisbane, Queensland, in the wild continent of Australia. So I am quite literally on a map on the other side of the world. Yes. And it is 9:35 in the morning over here on a sunny Thursday. Yes.
Yes. Good morning to you.
Good evening to you. Yes.
Yes. So you and I have known each other for a while. We met when you were doing some work at a company that I was working at. And what I remember, yes, I remember you walking into the room and holding this space and hearing your spoken word for the first time. But what also makes me laugh is I remember your story that you told. And so you can go into as much or as little as you want, but how we get here today, tell us what has been your journey before you got to commissioned poet. We're working in corporate. So tell us a little bit about your background.
Yeah, I am a multi-hyphenate creative and have been since I can remember. My mom said that I was singing Lionel Richie before I could talk. Once, twice, three times a lady. I wanted to pursue music as a kid, and, you know, as a lot of Black households, while we know our bandwidth and our talent to entertain and hold court. My mom was from the Kennedy era, you know, East Coast, first generation African-American, and excellence is that's not optional. You know, like you don't just have to do well, you have to do 10 times better. And that's just what grew up hearing. And that's just what it is. It's interesting because as a parent today, I bear witness to the ways in which globally parenting has changed around talking with your kids and giving them all the information. I come from a generation where it just was, and heaven forbid you asked why or needed any context. I wouldn't even be sitting here talking to you today, and that was not abuse. No. That was just
to be seen
no longer
and not
with
heard.
Us. 100%. So there was none of this gentle parenting. There was none of this, let's sit down and hear what we have to say. It was just, you're not doing entertainment. We aren't entertainers. That's it. And I defied my mother for a bit when I was first in junior college. But I realized once I got to science that we had to dissect, and I was like, oh, no, I'm not going to be able to. No, I can't do any of that. So immediately I gravitated towards the law. And the only reason I didn't end up keeping my pre-law was my mom there was no joy. She was so exhausted she worked so much. She missed so many things, and it was all under the guise and for the rite of passage around what we must be and what she must provide and how it must look and all of the things. And I just thought, we don't need any of that. We'd be just as happy if you were just our mom. And that was never acceptable. I can see now as a Black female African American, I can see just how relentless it
Yeah.
is and why that conversation persisted and how come she was never okay with what was good enough. But by that time you're already in it. You're already part of it. You can't
There's no turning
you
back.
yeah, you there's nothing you can really do about it. And it became this sojourn for me where I studied. I changed my major from musical theater to human resources with an emphasis in ethics. My guidance counselor at the time asked me what I was interested in doing, and I said I like to plan things and organize people, and I always wanted to have a talk show. And her recommendation, she pulled up a couple of pamphlets off that wall with all the colored paper, and she was like, I know what we'll do, HR. I still am looking for her because
It is
she
a
should be
profession for
that.
you.
I was like, she must have hated me or herself, potentially both of us, because that was awful. And I remember getting into HR, studying it, thinking about being an advocate, being actually a resource for human beings at work, and being a
Mm-hmm.
shield for them and helping them understand, was very much the opposite. It was almost the antithesis of everything that they taught, because you are, at best, you were babysitting behavior. Years passed, and I just felt myself turning around one day and just being like, this couldn't possibly be this couldn't be everything that they said you were getting to, that you were
Yeah.
working toward. And I started to get this anxiety on Sunday nights, and then I
Mm-hmm.
started to dread Saturdays, and then I started thinking about how long the weekend was from Wednesday, and the fact that you work these 5 days only to have the one day to do the thing. And then Sunday, I just spent the day kind of poetically bawling my eyes out. And I just was like, well, this sucks. This is why my mom always looked the way that she did, because this is not a way to live a life. And so now it was all at once that I just decided I wasn't going to do it anymore. And I was in my 20s. This would have been early 2000s. No one was an entrepreneur. You certainly weren't a solopreneur, and you certainly weren't Black and not 30. Like, it just didn't, it made no sense. But I again always been an emotionally driven individual, and I was driving home in rush hour traffic in LA, which was horrible. And I get home, take off one shoe, sit down on the couch, fall apart. What am I going to do? And I'm watching Def Poetry Jam, and this poet named Marty McConnell from the South Side of Chicago, she came on, and it was one of those moments, Michelle, where you feel like whatever is happening on the TV is directly speaking to you. It was like a dream sequence. And she said, she recited this poem called Instructions for a Body. She said, speak, or let the maker take back your throat. March, or let the creator rescind your feet. Dream, or let your God destroy your good and fertile mind. This is your warning. This is your birthright. Do not let this universe regret you. And I have never forgotten that poem. I knew very well that I was meant to do something greater than what I was doing. I remember the first time I saw Maya Angelou speak was at the inauguration of Bill Clinton, and she recited on the pulse of morning. And America still had some dexterity then. While I don't agree with everything that happened in that administration, that day witnessing her hold the entire Capitol just in the palm of her hands, where there was no air of segregation, and it wasn't that history hadn't happened. It just that people still understood that there was a level of respect for someone that
Yeah.
came before you. And she looked out onto the mall, and it was chock full. And she ended that poem, and it was a rock, a river, a tree. And poetry is this thing that just goes over people's heads, and it can get real esoteric. But she was a poet of the people. And she said And you can look upon the day with new eyes and say, good morning. And the place just erupted. And I still to date, after all these years, it gives me goosebumps because I remember thinking to myself, I turned around and I looked at my mom, who again was a huge Kennedy fan, loves the forefathers, the whole bit. And I was like, I want to do that. And she said, you will. You will. And I just thought to myself, like, how do you capture people with just the sound of your voice, with something that you've written, that no matter who you are or where you are, they get it, because that's the point of communication. That's the point of story. That's the point of being able to step outside of yourself
Yeah.
and say, I have something to say that I want you to receive, not for what I think it meant, but what it meant to you. And it was then that I knew the power of poetry. It was then that I understood the power of oration and what that felt like, and what it felt like to just look out and deliver something and bring people with you, not for your own gain.
Emotionally.
Yeah,
Yes.
just to remind people you're here. Right now is all
Mhm.
you have. Right now you're here. So what are you going to do, and how will they remember you? Not after you pass away, just the moment you're not in front of them. Are you even memorable? Is it even worth recalling? And I remember thinking, nothing about this job makes
Your
me
HR
even
job.
feel, yeah, nothing. I was like, this is terrible. Yeah, but it's that. It's this. I was like, what am I here to do? And so I marched into work the next day, Michelle, with all of the non-pay grade, and marched into my area vice president's office and was like, Kathy, I quit. We also were not on a first name basis.
She's like,
And
and
she,
who are
yeah,
you again,
she spun around
ma'am?
like Neo in the Matrix and was like, okay. I had worked up this whole speech. You know, it was the next day, Michelle. I did not wait any time. Like, I watched the poem and I marched into work the next day and was like, I quit. Uh, the universe is calling me, and I will not be regretted by the planets. And she was like, okay. And I was like, huh, all right. And I call my sister, who is my polar opposite, and I call her up and I said, hey, man, I quit my job. And she's like, yeah, cool. That's what's up. She's like, so what are you going to do? I was like, oh, I don't know. I just want to be open to what the universe has for me. And my sister was like, I didn't even know what I was talking about. I was like, the universe is calling us and we have to heed that. And she's like, yeah, cool. She said, so did you call mom? And I was like, huh? And she said, when women aren't telling the truth, our voices tend to just meet magically. The inflection goes up. And I was like, I haven't called her yet. Like, but she was like, yeah, man, well, call me after you call mom and then call me back. This is my older sister, 2 years older. So I call my mom and she answers the phone. She knows it's me. I know it's her. I was calling from my direct line, which also I had made it. And so I call her and she says, Octavia Robinson's office. And I'm like, Mom, I know it's you. I don't. And she's like, hello, Azure. And I'm just like, hey, Ma, I just wanted to let you know that I quit my job today. And she's like, great. When do you start your next one? And I was like, oh, well,
Fair
like,
question.
I was like, that next can be subjective. And she said, okay, all right. Well, do you have a good feeling about your second interview? And I'm like, it's like the universe, Mom, for all of this, calling all of us. The universe, we all get called to listen to the when the planets, you have to step out into it. And she was like, what have you done? And I'm like, well, I decided that I'm going to be a poet. And the line went dead. So that was it. I quit my job. No job. I had one poem. It is the worst poem I have ever heard of anyone ever anywhere. I did not know my actual ability to motivate people just by me talking until I motivated myself out of employment. And my mom said, and I quote, it's in my book. I have a book coming out, hopefully, if I can manage to listen to my publisher and complete it. She said, you can't do poetry, Azure. That's a hobby. And hobbies are for weekends and white people. I stumbled upon understanding that while I wasn't happy at the time, my education, the rigor in which my mom raised us, those ideals of understanding what it meant to be on a team, to work as an unpaid intern, to no one even knowing your name and you not panicking and falling apart. That taught me the resilience that I have today to be an entrepreneur after 20 years. I would not ever have made it. I would have never survived without going through the gauntlet of
Yeah.
corporate America.
And it is a gauntlet.
It breaks you.
It
Whatever
can.
you think you're going to do is very different from what the system says you can do. It has nothing to do with the meritocracy of your talent and your ability. It is a series of chess and game and understanding how to navigate those spaces. And that skill set taught me everything that I know about being an entrepreneur still and still being here and being able to travel the world and being able to open for Maria Shriver, which led me to meet Oprah, which is how I got into Forbes and selling a pilot to ABC Family and becoming a consultant and naming myself a commissioned poet, because it turns out you can actually make money as a technical copywriter, because the only way that they
Ah,
tell you you can do it is to be Toni Morrison. But we have her. And Nikki Giovanni is incredible, and so is Maya Angelou, but I still am not where they are. Those are my heroes. If you have to be told no, your heart has to break. You have to understand that you cannot just have everything simply because you think that you can. It's not about deserving. It's about how much do you love it? How much are you willing to sacrifice? What are you here for? Why are you here?
yes.
Where are you going? What's the plan? Do you have one? And if you don't, what I tell people is don't make a move until you do.
Well, let me ask you, given all of that background and where you've come from and the rooms that you've been in and the tables that you've sat at,
Yeah.
when you think about those tables, what are some of the pearls that you wish you knew then? Not just getting into those rooms and sitting at those tables, but how to thrive and to be successful at those tables.
Oh man, the table is I love the name of your show because it's terminology that's been thrown around a really long time. And but it's not seasonal, like everyone was talking about authenticity and transparency. But the table, it's so important to be in rooms that have levity. But I
Mm-hmm.
think the thing I wish I would have known is how important it is to observe when you get let in, to look around and identify another opportunity for somebody to come behind you.
100%.
Um, and when you get the opportunity, it is our job, it is our duty as women to make sure that not only do you not close the door behind you, but you do not allow any besmirching. That if that room that you then get in and that table that you were seated at is rooted in superficial spaces or spaces that think that only one woman could be there, only one of this kind can be there, that you exit that room and that you do so in a way that preserves you, to where you do not relegate yourself to becoming part of the problem, but it is because we come from a space that says you may not have it. And the
Mm.
problem is not that they said you may not have it. The problem is that we believe it. So you're fighting on a few levels as a woman, as a Black woman, dependent on the industry. And then you're clamoring. You're clamoring for some sort of visibility.
Mm-hmm.
And then what do they do, which is how we met? They created silos around that visibility or invisibility. Well, we're going to make these groups, these affinity spaces, which on one side, thank God. And on the other side, you think, can you stop putting us off to the side? The ability to maintain, curate, and cultivate a relationship, like that takes time.
Mm-hmm.
And it could be years in between, but not everything has a instant. There will be moments where you just know that you're in the right company.
Well, that's part of why I started this podcast, because it is a part of the lessons. I feel it's my responsibility that I've had the career that I have, and not that it's over, but there is a gap in the knowledge and the advice and what's shared and how to put one foot in front of the other and be successful in certain rooms and at certain tables. We have to make the table bigger. We have to pull out the chair for the person to come next to us, behind us, but it is our duty. It's our responsibility. And
Have you
those tables are shifting, the rooms are shifting, the
Yeah,
conversation's shifting.
yeah.
And one of the things that you and I talked about was how AI is also
Mm,
changing those rooms and changing the conversation. And
mm,
you've been up to some really amazing things. I would love for you to tell the listeners how you're using AI in your work
mm,
and some of the
mm.
amazing things that you're doing to help others.
Well, Michelle, your listeners may not know, I am a 20-year survivor of relapsing remitting multiple sclerosis and a self-made, self-identified, and staunch patient advocate. I did not get there without five incredible African American badass executives, you being one of them, um, that told me I really needed to take care of what was happening with me because I, like many minorities in the States, um, was not looking after my health for a host of reasons. Healthcare in
Yeah.
America is tough, but living internationally, I have for almost 10 years off and on. Healthcare is tough everywhere that you go. And
Mm-hmm.
and it is for reasons that far exceed your current lifespan. These are systems that have been in place since it's been in place. But you, at the unctioning of you and a few of your colleagues, um, could start to see some of my decline with the disease and, made it possible for me to finally have the bandwidth. Uh, at this point, I had had the financial support that I needed to get that done because I did not have insurance when I was diagnosed. And as it goes in the States, then that means that it's not ever something I can be insured for. And it was scary. It was terrifying. There was very little known about MS at the time, and still not much more now. And as far as MS in African Americans, it is a daily fight that is still happening around making sure we're in these clinical studies and trials
Yeah.
because they're treating the disease with medicines that are not formatted for our bodies and the way that our genetics work. So the results that we would have are not calculated, and that's if, in fact, you are able to get seen. But you guys begged me to look after it because it had started to become physically visible that I wasn't able to just keep this under wraps. It had already been 9 or 10 years, and I just decided that if it took me this long to get made and found and discovered, the last thing I'm going to do, on top of being black, female, gay, and an entrepreneur, and a commissioned poet in corporate, and an advisor for DEI. Like, I've been in DEI since it wasn't an acronym, since they used to call it community affairs, or the thing Pam would get upset about.
Yes.
Like, I've been in DEI a long time. Like, I've watched it just ebb and flow and become cute and then not cute, and stickers and posters and signs and all of that. I was like, I'm not going to walk in there and tell them I'm disabled with a neurological disorder that's incurable. They already think I can't do it. I'm already 3/5. So I'm just going to go in, keep jumping and shucking and jiving and making them laugh and having a good time. But I stopped being able to control the disease, and it had started to show up in real ways. And you and these four other Black executive women um, were like, Azure, it's time. And at that particular meeting, um, the theme was you were made for this. And it was these beautiful stories from other employees and colleagues of yours talking about moments that defined their lives. You guys all took me out to dinner. I couldn't believe everything that I had seen in those couple of days. And I thought, I'm playing a dangerous game here. And I finally went and I got seen. And while I thought it was going to be much worse than it was. Um, And it was the following year that I was offered my first ever spokesperson opportunity. to represent MS, and not only to represent MS, but to represent MS as far as the disparity goes for African Americans. And it was the greatest pivot of my life, which I would have thought being discovered by Oprah in 2010 would have been it, or any of the other things, or working with Beats by Dre and all of this other stuff. Like, this was the thing that ended up changing the course of my life. And I'm still representing that today, working with pharma all over the world, talking with patients in different disease communities. And I got really sick last year. I wasn't able to travel. I had developed POTS, which is a tachycardic syndrome. And during the stabilization of the flights, like, I would lose consciousness, or my heart rhythm would
Mm-hmm.
not be playing well. That put a lot of strain on a few other conditions that came to light post pandemic, and might have been dormant prior. It could be a host of things. And so I was benched. I couldn't even fly for an hour without oxygen or a nurse escort. And it was in that time I was trying to get my MRIs read here in Australia, and I hadn't cleared their Medicare program yet. And the doctors are in short demand here, and this is a difficult disease. This is a specialty. This is not something that everybody can treat.
Yep.
And they told me I couldn't get seen for another 6 months. And at this point, I
Wow.
was beside myself. We had found out that I had thrombocytosis, which is a rare blood cancer that is intermittent and only is present when there is a massive inflammation in the body. And that was brand new. My eyes, I was going temporarily blind pretty regularly. Just would lose sight in a minute. Could be a couple hours, could be a day or two, but just nothing. It just went black. And so I knew something was wrong. I just didn't know what it was. And I couldn't get anyone to see me. They sent me to the ER. The ER was like, we can't see you after
Yeah.
5. It was awful. And I went home, and I got onto chat. I've always been an early adopter of tech, and I had my results back from the radiologist, and no one to certify them. And I had ChatGPT teach me how to download the radiology software. And I did that for
Wow.
4 days. And I ended up reading the majority of the MRIs. I saw that I had dozens of new lesions. I was so heartbroken. I had been doing so well with my health before leaving the States in 2022. And I was just devastated. I really felt like I had let myself down. Um, my stress was at an all-time high. Um, and I kept going, and I thought to myself, I wonder if there's a way to automate all of the stuff that I have to manage now that I know these things are happening. And if I can't get seen by a doctor, maybe I can synthesize all of my results and kind of get a pattern index on what's going on, because I know what's happening based off of my lived experience. But is there a
Mm-hmm.
way to synthetically automate what I've taught myself about living with MS and all of the ways that I hack my way through health and relapses? That ended up becoming my signature activity up until 2 days ago. I have been coding. I got my developer's license at the end of August. I taught myself 3 different native coding languages, did all of that with different AI agents, taught myself how to automate and audit what the system was spitting out. I got to stay in my office. My health started to improve. Um, and then I talked with an IP lawyer and had my idea valued, and decided to throw it all in, and developed Impatient. And Impatient is a patent pending behavioral intelligence platform that I have built, and we are in beta right now. We're
Woo.
waiting for Apple to give us the okay, but we will be releasing our desktop version here in the next 5 or 6 days. Got a good team, a small team, still doing some work on in-house developers, but I developed the entire app full stack by myself. I have moved into software development full time. We have three patents that are pending. We're fully trademarked, and we are in pre-seed right now, and we are valued at 25 million US pre-capital, and we are slated to
Get
hit
it.
seed by September. Our get to market is inside of a year, which is unheard of. I have been so excited and feel so blessed to see my mind working at a speed that I have never really been able to catalyze. And while AI has a lot of danger, whilst there is a lot of fodder and marketing trying to both excite and infuse scarcity, as
Mm.
someone who is late diagnosed with ADHD and has a cognitive debilitating disorder, I have never in my life felt more mentally clear, more cognitively sound. And whilst there were upwards of 24 new lesions, I am sure that I have 3 times as many new neural pathways, because it is to engage the brain to heal it. It is not a one size fits all, but they know so little about the potential of the human mind. And I would not have gotten here without artificial intelligence. At no point, Michelle, has it ever then told me we are not needed, because I have been coding
Yeah.
at the minimum 16 hours a day since July
Wow.
28th last year, and I have not lost my spark once. This has been the most exciting and incredible thing I have ever done, and I have been on stages all over the world with all kind of people and been on TV and done all. None of that. It pales in comparison to being able to witness your vision and activate it and see it, and not only see it for you, but see it in the most pliable, most lucrative industry, which is technology, which is
Right.
information technology. All of our software is based on the story of the human being. I am still writing every day, just in code. I am still a maven of telling stories. My parent company is called Teller Ventures, and our trademark is that we pervade the art of storied risk. And that is exactly the full chrysalis of what we have done. I have started a full technology startup called SymbAIo. SymbAIo is spelled SYMBAIO, because artificial intelligence is not combative. It is our accessory to get to our most placable way of getting your time back, which in the story of humanity, that is always the thing we're after. I just wish I had more time. And if you use these tools right, that's exactly what you're going to get. And I am on fire to tell
I
people
can
about
hear
the
it.
power of what it can do. It is beautiful, but in no way should it be writing songs and making movies and removing doctors. It can't. And that's someone who has used every Grok, Chat, Anthropic. I use them all. Perplexity, all of them. I have been using them all because it's not a one size fits all. I've locked myself away all of these months to get this thing done, but I'm thrilled to be at this stage when we start hitting press and doing media, because there is a whole world out there of people that just don't know how much this can revolutionize their lives, how much this can change their lives. This can do it if we let it do it the right way. And the beauty of being able to empower women to use this. We are the greatest multitaskers of all time, and I believe the blueprint of AI itself. Women have been doing this and figuring it out since the dawn of time.
Forever.
Girls have been
That's what we do.
managing patterns from the moment they start a cycle. They're thinking about when they can go on vacation and what girls' weekend they should do, because they're like, oh no, I don't feel like dealing with all of that. Our software can do this for anything. That's why we're patent pending, because it's pattern recognition and behavioral intelligence that looks at the human. We aren't a health app. We aren't a journal. We ingest whatever wearable you're wearing, whatever you wear. And if you're not wearing that, we base it off a basic circadian rhythm of the human being today. We use behavioral intelligence, known open source information, and we index patterns. We index patterns quicker and better than any other software that's out there, because there is no software out there doing it. And I kept thinking at some point something's going to come up, but they have done the thing that we all know is happening. They continue to separate health from the rest of the person. We're the first software that's looking at you as you are. This is about looking at where you are, not logging into something and it telling you where you should be. There's enough spaces in the world where we don't feel like we're doing enough. And every biotech, every health app is like, here's where you're supposed to be. Here's what you did. We just greet you with, here's where you are. And we'll meet you where you are. And that's what I've always done as a speaker. That's what I've done as an author. That's what I've done as a commissioned poet. That's what I've done as a consultant. Whether I
Yeah.
am representing the minority or helping the majority understand how to better speak to the minority, no matter where it is, I've always been a human resource conduit. And this is the chapter that I've been writing this whole time. And with AI, I have been able to do the job of 10 developers that are senior
Wow.
engineers because I can learn, because the human brain is beautiful. It is
Yeah.
an absolute gorgeous disaster. And we just have to be open to discovering ourselves again and not always waiting for someone else to tell you who you are. That's it.
Sounds incredible. And I'm so proud of you. Congratulations for the significant milestone. And by the time this podcast actually gets aired, you're going to have even more great news. And I
Yeah.
can't wait for people to help to support and learn more about it and to see the impact that what you've created yourself, how it has an impact on the world, not just on a few, but the
Yeah.
world. And that's what AI, that's the gift of
It
AI
it
when you give
is.
it an opportunity.
And you give it parameters. Like it's always I guess and we would know this. I feel like I can say this comfortably with you because I know you've traveled, both for work and in your life. You and your husband, like you purpose to show your children what excellence is and what that means, and
Yeah.
building a structure for themselves, which sometimes doesn't always go well in our community. Sometimes it isn't always received, and you've purposed to do that, and you took a risk and you took a leap of faith.
Thank you for sharing that. And
Yeah,
thank you
yeah.
for sharing your gifts with us.
Mhm.
But before I let you go, I
Yes.
make it customary to do a few fun, light questions. So
Yes, yes,
I
yes.
call it lightning round.
Okay.
Um,
I'm ready. I'm
but
ready.
what are you currently binge watching?
Right now I just finished White Lotus season 3.
Oh,
Yeah, that's people need a sedative. They need to have a
they
seat.
have them.
And they sure do. And Jury Duty, Amazon Prime Jury Duty season
Oh,
2. Oh,
jury duty.
it is a mockumentary. I am telling you, it's a vibe. It's a vibe.
Okay.
Those two, those are my jam. And my wife loves true crime and
Oh,
documentaries, and she loves to watch those in the evening, which is terrible. So she's like, I just don't have the time to I don't have the
yeah.
time to watch fiction. And I'm like, I think we could make time to watch it. She won't though.
Let her have it.
Yeah, I
When you're
will.
working, do you
Yes.
work in complete silence or a playlist?
Uh It's a combination of both. I'm really into the noise engines, how you can mix the different
Mm-hmm.
sounds. That's a big deal for me. I find that music is I'm so infatuated with it that I don't focus, and my ADHD we have to be careful.
Uh-huh. I'm with
I
you
get
on that.
lost, you know.
Either your last concert that you've been to or your favorite concert. Well,
Adele is my
again,
favorite. She's my favorite. I love her.
oh,
She's great.
she is great. I saw a clip of her sing Celine Dion at her concert. So Adele's
Oh,
concert
yes.
and Celine was in
Yes.
the audience. Have you seen this?
Yes.
I
Yes.
bawled.
It's
It's the
fantastic. It was
moment, like
fantastic.
you described, of these poets. It's the moment when you see the person that has inspired you that you look up to
Yes.
so much. Well, thank you again for joining me today. I really
Oh,
appreciate it. Please tell people, and we can put this in the show notes, what's the
yes.
best way to get in touch with you and to learn more about the amazing work that you're doing?
Yeah, Instagram. I'll make sure you have all the handles. You can always just search me by my name, and the brand, the tech brand is there, and our app is there, and all of that stuff.
Very good. Well, until next time, remember the most important conversations don't always happen in the boardroom. They happen
Mm,
right here at the table. Thanks for
yes,
listening.
absolutely.
Thank you for listening. And if this podcast episode resonated with you, please share it with a friend. Invite them to the table. And don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe to this podcast on your favorite platform.